am Dr. Pavitra Bharadwaj. I work as an associate professor in the Department of Computer Science at Jesus and Mary College, University of Delhi. So friends, we have been talking about different topics in these lectures, and particular series which is going on at the moment talks about Python programming. And in the previous part of the series we had seen about the relevance of Python, why Python is becoming so popular and why should a user learn Python. Also we saw the different environments in which Python programs can be run. That is, we need to familiarize ourselves with the Python ideally, and how we can download and install Python on different platforms, whether it is Unix, whether it is Linux, whether it is Mac, or of course it is the Windows environment. So we saw that Python can work in both the formats. Python can work in the form of scripts, or it can work in the form of modules, or it can work in the form of programs for that matter. So whenever we are creating a Python script, so we say that the Python script has to be saved with the py extension, the modules have to be saved with the py extension, and the executable file, if you are creating any, then you need not save it with the py extension. So particular interest here, we need to know about the Python script. Now what exactly is a script here? So when we have a Python program and we are calling the Python program from the command line, the interpreter will evaluate each expression in that particular file. We know that when we are looking at the interpreter, it is going by line execution of the commands. So familiar mechanisms will be used for to provide command line arguments and to redirect input and output. So whenever there is an input requirement, the command line will be redirected. Whenever there is an output to be given to the user, again the command line is redirected. So Python also has mechanisms which allow the program to act both as a script as well as a module to be imported and used by another Python program. So I can have a Python script which will be a standalone, or I can have a Python module which I will import in another program. We of course have to keep in mind that Python also has a rich source of library. It has got a very rich collection of libraries. So we will also keep importing functions from the different libraries according to our requirements. So if we look at the Python, a simple Python program which uses functions, okay. So here is a function, here is a program which calculates the factorial of a number. Now two formats of the factorial function are given here, one is the recursive and the other is the iterative. So if you look here, the first line of the program shows 3 quotes, that is, the title is written in 3 quotes. So this is for the comments. So we are using the 3 quotes sign for the comments here, and then we create an iterative function and we call it as fact1, and we are using the normal for loop. Of course, we will be talking about the syntax of these statements later on, but for this juncture we are only looking at how the code is going to be written. So you create a function, and in that we have given a loop because it is calculating the factorial in the iterative format. So we are running a for loop from 2 to the number, and we are multiplying the answer each time by the number n, and in the end of the loop we are returning the answer. So this is calculating the factorial. Then we define another function, if you see here, called the fact2 function, which is calculating the factorial in the recursive format. So we are just simply using the recursive format. Recursive format, of course, we all know that when the function is calling itself, we say that it is a recursive function. So here the function fact2 is calling itself in the last line. So we are saying return n into fact2 of n minus 1. So every time the function is called, it calls itself until the condition becomes false. So these are the basic syntax, these are the basic ways in which the script can be written. So now what happens is that we can either invoke this program, that is the ex.py, we can either invoke it in the IDLE, or we can make this as a part of another Python program, whichever way the programmer or the developer wants it to work. So, if you look at a simple code, a very simple code in your IDLE, so it can be something like a simple assignment. So, we can do an x is equal to 34 minus 23, or we can have a string assignment, or we can have a floating point assignment, right. Now, here you are using the hash symbol for specifying a comment. So, a single line comment can be shown with a hash, and a multiple line comment can be shown using the 3 quotation marks that we have seen. Then you can also have in the IDLE, you can also use statement, like for example, we are using the if statement, and this is a simple program that we have written. So, if we are saying if z is equal to 3.45 or y is equal to hello, then x will be x plus 1 and y will be y plus world. So, now what is happening in the y is equal to y plus world? We know, like in other scripting languages also we have seen. So, here the string concatenation is going to take place, and then of course, we are printing the result, right. So, what we had said earlier, we are experiencing now that whenever there is an input output to be done, the program will stop and go for input output, and then it will come back in the IDLE. So, you can see here now in this case the result of the 2 statements will be printed. So, x will be equal to 34 minus 23 plus 1, because the statement says x is equal to x plus 1, and y will be hello world, because hello is concatenated to world, because the if condition is coming out to be true. So, these 2 results will be printed right here below the script what we have written, right. So, now in the code it is also very important to see that how the code has been written. So, this certain lines of code are indented and certain lines of code are written in the same line. So, here in Python, because you are working in the IDLE, indentation will play a very important role. Indentation matters to the code meaning, and block structures are always indicated by the indentation, right. So, you also see that we are actually assigning the variable, like in this case, first case we are assigning a variable, right. And if you see here below the if statement, because it is a block, x is equal to x plus 1 and y is equal to y plus world, this is a block of statement which we need to be executed when the if condition is true. So, this block comes slightly in the indented format. So, indentation is also important, and also the assignment is important. So, Python will figure out the variable type on its own. So, we say that it is automatically typecasted, right. And also there is we need to understand the difference between the single equal to and the double equal to. Single equal to sign is being used as an assignment operator to assign a value to a variable, whereas the double equal to sign is being used for the comparison of the value, whether z is equal to 3.45 or not. So, there you are using the double equal to, whereas when you want to assign a value to a variable, you are using a single equal to, right. So, besides this, we have other symbols also which we have been using in programming languages like C, etc. So, we have the plus, minus, divide, multiply and the modulo operator, right. But here the plus operator, unlike this in the C language or the C++, we can use the plus operator for string concatenation, and we can use the percentage or the modulo operator for string formatting. So, the percentage operator or the modulo operator can be used with the numbers for calculating the modulus, but when you are using it with the strings, you can use it for formatting, right. And for logical operators, we use the words instead of symbols. Here we are going to use the simple words like and, or, and, not. Unlike other languages where you use the ampersand sign or the exclamation mark, here you are simply going to write the words and, or, and, not. And the basic printing command is the print command. Like in C++, you had the printf command, here it is the print command which you are going to use. So, because of all these simplicities which have been added in the programming language, that is why Python becomes very easy to learn, because you do not have to remember too many symbols, you do not have to remember too many complicated or different kinds of words for commands. Then if you look at the data types, right. So, there are two categories of data types which we look at. First is the basic data types which we see in all programming languages, and then we also have certain composite data types which are specific or which are very significant in case of Python itself, right. So, we will talk about both the types of data, that is the basic as well as the composite data types here. So, the first data type that we all use very commonly is the integer. So, integer data type is actually the default for all numbers, right. So, you can have a whole number or you can have a floating point number, both can be saved using the integer. We also said that you do not have to declare a variable before, or you do not have to typecast a variable in case of Python. So, therefore, you can directly use a variable before declaring its type. So, we have a simple division, okay, and it can, though if you are dividing z is equal to 5 by 2, so it is going to give you the answer as 2 instead of 2.5 because it is an integer. But if you declare the variable x is equal to 3.45, then it is automatically understood that this is a floating point variable. Likewise, we can have the string data also, like the character data also. So, here we use either double quotes or we use the single quotes to specify. So, this means that if you put a string in double quotes or if you put it in single quotes, they are both equivalent. Okay. So, if you are using unmatched, so if you are using ABC is equal to single quotes ABC, okay, so then this can give as an error also. And we have also seen that you can also use the triple double quotes for multi-line strings or strings that contain both single and double quotes inside of them. So, triple quotes are also there, single quote is also there and double quotes are also there. So, we have to be very careful when we are using single, double or triple quotes. They cannot be used in the form of in an unchangeable format, right. So, when we look at numbers, we see that there is integer numbers are there, you can have floating point numbers and you can also have complex numbers, because we know that Python is a very popular language which is used by scientists and for numerical operations. So, therefore, it also has a specific data type for catering to complex numbers from mathematics, and we have strings. So, you can have a string or you can have a characters, okay, whose length is even 1. So, 1 character string can also be there, and we also have the Boolean data types which have got the true or the false value, right. So, if we look at some of the operations which you can perform using the numbers, so the usual notations and operators which are there, we already know that plus, minus, divide and multiply and modulo operators are there in case of Python also, right. So, you can have the simpler notations, as we already know that there are going to be complex notation also, and there are lots of functions, the library functions which are also there in Python which you can use. Then we have the shifting and masking operators that we see in case of C, that is also possible here. So, you have the shift operator and you have the masking or the tilde operator which is there. You also have the caret operator for the the raised to the power or the exponential function, you have the caret operator also, right. Then we can have an integer division, right. So, that will truncate the decimal part, okay. If you want to keep the decimal part, then you have to specifically maintain it that you need a floating point result for the integer division, right. and we also have the long or complex numbers are also possible here. So, you can have an arbitrary precision here. So, that kind of a problem is not there. It is never going to be land the developer in problem when it is when the number is a very long number or when the number is a complex number, because there is a special category which is going to take care of this. So, if we look at the strings and the formatting, so we know that a string is anything which is put in a single quote or in a double quote, or if it is a multi-line you can put it in the triple quotes, right. So, here what you see is you say percentage %d, you say percentage %f and you say percentage %s. So, this d means integer, f means that it is a float and s means it is a string, and then you are putting the IDS because these are the values which is having an integer, which is having a float or which is having a string operator. Then you have the new line character which is the \n, and if you do not want a new line then simply we will use, as we know, we will not put the \n character. So, these are some of the strings and the formatting which we can do using the special operators like the percentage operator or the new line character, that is the \n character, we can do that. Then when you are working with data types, one very common aspect related to data types is the variable. So, we know that a variable is like a container which is going to hold some value within the program or within the function. So, in Python there is no need to declare, there is no need to first declare the variable before using it, but we need to assign or we need to initialize the value. Okay, because if you are using an uninitialized variable, it may sometimes lead to exceptions being raised by the language. So, we do not have to declare, but we definitely have to assign. Say for example, if there is a variable x which I want to use to store integers, so I may save x is equal to 0, right. I need not say that x is an integer variable, but I will have to initialize it with a particular value. Okay. So, the variables here are not typed, that is the same variable can be used to hold different kinds of values. Say for example, here if we are saying greeting is equal to hello world or greeting is equal to 12 into 2. So, whatever so the variable greeting has been used to store either a string or an integer. So, therefore, we say that the variables are not strictly typed, they can, the value or the nature of the variable can change while the program is executing, right. So, everything will come in a variable format, whether you are declaring a function, whether you are having modules or whether we will be talking about classes, all these will be considered as variables only. And the naming conventions which are used for variables will also be applied in the same way to functions, modules or the kind of assignments. So, if we look at the reference semantics, right. So, in case of Python, the assignment actually manipulates the references. Say for example, if we have two variables x and y and we say that x is equal to y, right. So, what will happen? It will not make a copy of y. It is doing an assignment, that is the value of y is going into the value of x, but here what is happening is that x is being referenced or x is referencing the object which y is referencing. Okay. So, actually the value is not being copied, but it is being referenced. Okay. So, how it is working? If you have a variable a, okay, which is a it's a composite variable, say an array. So, we have an array a is equal to 1, 2, 3 and we assign the value of a to b, okay, and then we after that we append an object, say we append an element 4 into the array. Now, the assignment is actually happened before the appending happened, but still when you will print the array B, it will show that the element which you added to the original array A is showing. Why? Because you are not copying the value of A into B, but you are actually creating a reference to the variable A. So, both A and B will point to the same object if you are saying B is equal to A. So, this is very important, because this can lead to some kind of logical errors which will be difficult to track if the developer does not keep this thing in mind. So, it is actually when you are using an assignment, the assignment is not copying, but it is actually using the reference. Okay. Then we have some other operators, right. So, we know we have already discussed the mathematical operators like plus, minus, divide, multiply and modulo, which are there in C and C++ also, but we also have other operators like in C and C++ we have the increment and the decrement operator, we have the plus plus and the minus minus operator, but here we will have plus is equal to and minus is equal to instead of plus plus. So, when you say x is equal to x plus plus, here you will say x is equal to x plus is equal to x, or you will say x minus is equal to x, right. Then we have already seen that assignment operator and how the semantics of the assignment operator works. So, basically it is a reference kind of semantics in case of assignment operator, and we also have seen that the plus operator which is a numerical plus operator can be used with strings to concatenate two strings. So, let us see quickly some of the operators and some of the operations which can be done using strings. So, you of course, we can have concatenation using the plus operator. So, we say hello plus world, so we get hello world. Then if you say multiply into 3, star into 3, so this means that you are wanting to repeat the same string 3 times. If you want to fetch a particular character from the string, so you will use hello and you will use the index of that particular element. So, if you want the first element to be taken out, so you will use the index 0. We all understand that indexing always starts with 0. If you want to index the last element, then you can, or the rightmost element, then you will use the indexing -1. So, when you want the leftmost, you will start from 0. When you want the rightmost, you will start from the -1. If you want a range of characters to be sliced, say for example, from the first position to the 5th position, so you will write, from the 2nd position to the 5th position, so you will write hello, the string, and in brackets you will write 1:4. So, the second character is E, and the third and the fourth character will also be sliced from the string. If you want to find out the length of the string, the command or the operator or the function which is used is the len function, len. Len function is used to find out the length of the string. If you want to compare two strings, then you will use the comparison operator, like the less than or the greater than operator. So, when we are saying is hello less than jello, so it is returning the value 1, right. Then if you want to search a particular element or a particular character within a string, you will use the in operator. So, when you say E in hello, we are trying to find out how many times the letter E comes in the word hello. So, it is coming at the first position. So, it is showing the index first. Then we already know that the new line character can be the \n, and line continuation you can use the triple quotes. Then you can also have the single quotes and you can have the double quotes also. So, these are some of the important functions, some of the important operations that we will be performing on the string data type in our programs, right. So, we know that triple quotes will be useful for multi-line strings, okay. So, if you say S and S is equal to triple quotes and then you say a long string, so that can be used for triple quote which is continuing in multiple lines. Say if you want to write a paragraph, then you will use the triple quotes, right. So, you will say a long string with quotes, okay, and then you can find out the length of that string also using the len function. So, we are using len of s, so it is 45 characters. So, which is spanning multiple lines, there you will use the triple quotes characters. Then there are, because we said that Python has got a rich set of library functions also. So, we have some methods which can be used for strings also, like earlier we had seen some operators, now we are looking at the method. So, of course, we have the upper and the lower method to convert in uppercase or lowercase. Then we have the capitalize method to capitalize the first character. Then we have the count to find out the number of characters in the string. Then if you want to find a particular character, if you want to replace and find a particular character, if you want to know the index of a particular character, you will use the index method. If you want to slice a string, you can use the strip character. If you want to slice from the left side or the right side, you will use the L strip and the R strip methods. Then if you want to replace the string, the character in the string, then you will use replace A with B. If you want to expand, you will use expand tabs. If you want to cut the two strings, split them into two, or if you want to join or concatenate, okay, or if you want to align your string. Say for example, it is a long string or a paragraph, then you will use the center justified or right justified. So, center L just and R just for aligning the characters in the string. So, a large number of methods outside this also, this list is not all encompassing, there will be methods in strings which you will come across, which will provide excellent functionalities for working with strings, right. Then white space is also very meaningful, a blank space is also very meaningful, because we already said that indentation matters when you are working in Python, and also the placement of the new line. So, we use a new line to end a line of code. So, we use the \n and we use the backslash when we must go to the next line prematurely, right. So, new line is /n, and when you want to break to the new line midway, then you will use the backslash only. So, white space, new line character and indentation all are very important, right. Why? Because in case of Python, unlike C and C++, we do not have braces to mark the blocks of code. So, therefore, we will have to have a consistent indentation, right. So, the first line with less indentation is outside the block, and the first line with more indentation starts within a nested block. And of course, you have the colon which start of a new block in many constructs, like for example, when you are using function definition, then clauses, then you will always put a colon to show the new block construct is starting. So, therefore, while typing a Python script, one has to be very careful about the indentation, about the use of white spaces, right. We have already discussed how comments can be given. So, comments can be given with a hash sign and the rest of the line will be ignored, right. It can also include a documentation string as the first line of a new function or a class that you are defining. So, you can have the documentation string or you can have a hash sign. So, a single line comment can be given using a hash sign, right. So, this will be all for today's lecture, and we will be continuing with our discussion on more interesting aspects and composite data types in Python in the following lectures. Please keep watching CEC. Thank you.